Okay, today we have got a drill that works on our build-up play, so how we play out from the back, and more importantly, how we use an overload in our build-up phase to get the spare player on the ball to enable us to go forward. So the objective is always to play forward. How do we play forward? But eliminate as much risk as possible, maintain possession of the ball. Because what you find in games of football, it's very often when the ball goes dead that the play will be turned over. Things like goal kicks, things like throw-ins have a high rate of possession turnover. So if you get those two things right, so goal kicks, if you can effectively work on maintaining possession from a goal kick, rather than just kicking it to the halfway line or losing it in your own final third, if you can effectively work on maintaining the ball from a throw-in, then you're going to have a lot more of the ball, you're going to have a lot more success, you're going to get more chances on goal, presumably. So in terms of how we set up here, so we've got the pitch split into 3/3. Decide what measurements work best for you, but you can almost see you in like a 6-a-side, 7-a-side area. The game starts from the goalkeeper, always. So the goalkeeper will play into one of their three players in the bottom third. So that's a 4v3 overload. Emphasis here on is that the goalkeeper is the overload player. They should always be spare. If they are pressed, that means there's a spare player elsewhere that they can play to. So the challenge for the team in that bottom third is, can they find a spare player to play to enable them to play forwards? The next area, the middle third, is a 2v2. So that's two midfielders against two midfielders. Once the ball gets popped into them, if they can't turn, then they might have to come back, get their body in, and utilise the support behind them, so the original three players, to then enable them to play forward again. So there's a real method around playing backwards to then play forwards. You can't always play forwards in straight lines. Most of the time you have to use support around you, and you get 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, and then you progress up the field. The final element of how we set up is there will be a 1v1 in the attacking third of the pitch. So look, the objective of this is, can we build up to score a goal? So we're looking to score a goal. The goal has to be a one-touch finish. And once the ball gets played into that final third, as you'll see here, once the defender plays forward, one of the blue middle third players can get forward to support, so create a 2v1 situation. So the forward here holds it up brilliantly, plays in the midfield support player, and we go and score a goal. Now, we're not going to put any restrictions here on whether you have to play through the thirds or not. Not a big fan of that. It's restrictive. It's not realistic to a game day on a Saturday or a Sunday. So if you can go from back to front in one pass, then do that, because that's what you would do on a Saturday. If you can see the forward and you can drill a ball straight into the forward, then get the ball through the thirds as quickly as possible. We're not going to put restrictions on saying that you have to have so many touches in each box and you've got to play into the midfield. The midfielder then got to play into the strikers, because that's just not realistic to how football is played. So with the one-on-one battles that we do have, and the overload only being in the defensive third, what we'll find is that we probably do go through the thirds, but if there's any possibility that we can go from back to front very quickly, then definitely encourage that. The one condition that we will put on this game is when the Whites win the ball, so when the out-of-possession team win the ball, we're going to put a time restriction on them to score, so they've got 20 seconds. You can make it 30 if you want, whatever duration you'd like, but I'd say 20 seconds to then counter and score a goal. You might want to make their goal bigger as well, so have a full-size net that the Whites are shooting into and a smaller net that the Blues are shooting into, because what you want is that rapid transition. So if the Blues do win the ball, you want the Whites to attack quickly, try and score a goal, and then the Blues are resetting again from the goalkeeper to play again. The objective of this session is to play out from the back, land those learnings, look to play forward, score goals. But we also want to make it realistic for the team out of possession and keep them interested. So although they might be quite passive in the sense that they might not have a lot of the ball, we make it interesting for them when they do have the ball, and realistic again to a game day that they're trying to score. It's directional, it's realistic, and it's exciting and fun ultimately. So in terms of our coaching points for this session and this drill, I would really reward looking to play forward and players that look to play forward. We want to make sure that we're looking up, we're scanning, we're having a look what's in front of us, that the communication is clear both sides as well. But if players do play forward and play a nice deep forward pass, then look, really encourage that and really make sure that they get recognition for that as well. What we also want to show recognition for is players that move into space. So what tends to happen, I say this a lot in my videos, is that once a player is on the ball, their teammates tend to move towards them to get the ball from them. When we want to be doing the opposite, we want to be walking away from our teammates to help them, and that will create space. That will give the person on the ball more space because the press won't be as intense. If we're walking towards our teammate, then we're pressing with the opposition effectively. So we want to see good use of space. A key point we want to land as a coaching point is with the goalkeeper, because they have to be really confident to take advantage of that overload in the build-up phase. And this transfers into a match day, obviously, when we're trying to build up from the back. The goalkeeper is always the overload player, so they're always the player that's not marked. They might get pressed at some point, but if they do get pressed, that means that there's a player in and around that defensive third that is the spare player. What we're also looking for from our teammates as well, so the players in the other thirds, is instructions of where the spare player is. It shouldn't just come down to those players to solve that problem and that issue. The players further up the pitch need to be directing the play as well and really making the players on the ball aware of where the ball should be going next. We want our players to be really brave in possession, so especially in that defensive third where they've got an overload and they know if they've got an overload, can they draw a press in? So pause on the ball, put the foot on the ball, invite a press in so the players come to one side, and then look to switch or use the overload player to find the spare man. Really, really important that we get comfortable being pressed. Moving into the midfield third, we want, because it's a 2v2 battle, they're going to have to use their body at some point. It's going to be tight 1v1 marking. So we want to see those players really utilise their body shape and getting their body in to create a shield between the player and the ball as well, manipulating which way they want their opposition player to be. They might have to get their body in, protect the ball, play backwards, so then we can play forwards again. We also want, if they don't have to protect the ball and they have got a bit of space, we want to encourage them to receive on their back foot if they can turn. So that takes communication both sides. That takes communication from the player passing the ball and the players around them to tell them they've got time. If that shout does come, then they need to receive the ball on their back foot so they can turn in the same movement. That allows them to play forwards more effectively because they've received on the back foot, they're turned, and they're looking forwards for the next movement. When the ball does come into the midfield up the pitch, into the attacking third, the final third, we're looking to encourage them to use the support as well. With a little bit of contact. We want them to turn first time. We need them to look after the ball to utilise the support. That's not always going to be possible to enable us to play forward, especially in that final third. That's going to mean that they have to take some contact, be comfortable with the physical aspects, manipulate the opponent's body shape, play back behind them to then play forward. What we need to let the players know is that the deepest pass forwards is always the best one. It's the most risky pass, because the further the ball travels, the more risk is attached to that ball. But the best pass we can possibly do on a football field is the deepest pass, because that means we get closer to the opponent's goal more quickly. So when players get chance, we want them to play through the thirds, and we want them to play to the furthest possible player and look after that risk element as well. So we don't want them taking unnecessary risks, hoofing a ball up into the air. But if they can play to the furthest player safely, then they should do. And the final coaching point for this, for me, is just with the attacking player. So in the final third, we want to see a one-touch finish. Now, you might say to me, that's not game realistic. You've spoken about game realism before. Why are you doing a one-touch finish as a condition? Well, I would argue that a one-touch finish is game realistic. There's a stat floating about, I think around 70% of goals scored in the Premier League from a one-touch finish in that second 6-yard box area. So actually, by encouraging our players to do a one-touch finish within that area that is a second 6-yard box, then we are making it game realistic. So we want our players to finish first time. And that's all from us today. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the link in the bio to see everything else that we do as well. But enjoy this drill, give us a follow, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks a lot.